Imagine one day as an Indonesian citizen, you're expressing your opinion on social media, and the very next day, you suddenly find yourself facing legal action. The question is, are we truly free to speak or express our opinions in Indonesia? Good morning, I'm Gloria Risha Adonai, and today I'd like to invite all of us to discuss an issue that is very close to us, yet one we often overlook, and which remains a major question in this day. Freedom of speech in Indonesia, a right or merely a limit? Legally, Indonesia guarantees freedom of expression of speech. This is evident in Article 28E of the 1935 Constitution, which states that every person has the right to express their opinions. But in practice, the reality is not that simple. According to a report from SafeNet, Southeast Asia Freedom of Expression Network, over these past few years, there have been numerous cases involving citizens facing legal proceedings for speaking out in digital spaces, particularly in relation to the ITE law. Additionally, a report from Amnesty International Indonesia also highlights as a trend of criminalization targeting freedom in speech. From this, we can see a gap emerging between what is guaranteed by law and what actually happens on the ground or the reality. In public speaking, there are three key concepts in persuasion. First, ethos, the speaker's credibility. The more credible someone is, the more they are trusted. But in the context of freedom of speech, it's often about credibility, not about credibility, but rather about who is speaking and how much power they hold. Second, pathos, emotion. Many people end up staying silent not because they lack an opinion, but because they're afraid of being attacked and afraid of being criminalized. And this fear shapes the way society communicates. Third, logos. Logo and data. Looking at the data, we see legal cases related to digital expression, and this means that this freedom is indeed still limited. In practice, from a theoretical perspective, we can see that persuasion in this issue isn't just about the message, but also about the social conditions that influence whether people dare to speak up or not. In a public speech, we are familiar with the basic structure. Opening that is used to capture the audience's attention, the body that is used to build an argument, and the closing that is used to leave a lasting impression. And in the body, we build persuasion through a communication of logos, pathos, and ethos. Today, I'm using this structure not only to convey information, but to encourage us to think critically about freedom of speech. So, what about building an argument? This problem isn't just with the rules, but with how those rules are applied. The ITE law, for example, was originally created to protect the public from a misuse technology. However, in practice, it often becomes a tool to restrict criticism. What are the consequences? When people are afraid to speak out, criticism of policies decrease, public discourse becomes unhealthy, and democracy weakens. Yet, in the democratic system, criticism isn't a threat, but it's a part of social control. Now, the question is, are we truly free, or do we only free as long as we don't disagree? Freedom of speech is not just about the right to speak, but about the courage to speak the truth. As students, also the younger generation, we have an important role to play. not just to speak, but also to ensure that the space for dialogues remains healthy, critical, and responsible. Because the ultimate, what determines the future of democracy is not just the law, but also the courage of people to think and speak out. So perhaps the question is no longer, are we afraid to speak? But are we brave enough to see or to use that freedom wisely? Thank you.